In today's top story, a devastating earthquake strikes Venezuela, leading to a humanitarian crisis. Additionally, tensions rise in the Middle East as the U.S. moves forward with arms sales. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. Turkey has detained 209 individuals in a series of anti-terror operations. The operations were conducted ahead of an upcoming NATO summit and targeted suspected militants. This action comes amid heightened security concerns in the region. Turkey has been facing increasing threats from various groups, particularly as tensions continue to rise globally. The detentions are part of a broader effort to bolster national security. Analysts suggest that Turkey's aggressive stance may be aimed at demonstrating its commitment to NATO allies. However, critics argue that such measures can lead to human rights abuses. The implications for Turkey's future relations with NATO remain uncertain. As the summit approaches, the focus will be on how these actions affect diplomatic ties. Countries will be closely monitoring Turkey's approach to combating terrorism in the region. A powerful earthquake struck Venezuela, resulting in widespread destruction and a humanitarian crisis. The quake, measuring 7.5 on the Richter scale, has led to significant casualties, with thousands injured and many buildings collapsed. Rescue teams are working tirelessly to save those trapped under rubble. The government has declared a state of emergency, mobilizing resources for relief efforts. International aid is beginning to arrive, with neighboring countries offering assistance. This disaster comes at a time when Venezuela is already facing severe economic challenges. The impact on the local economy could be devastating, as infrastructure is critical for recovery. As the situation unfolds, the focus will be on the effectiveness of the response and the long-term recovery efforts. The world watches to see how aid organizations will respond to this pressing crisis. The United States has moved ahead with a significant arms sale to Turkey, valued at $700 million. This decision comes despite concerns voiced by lawmakers regarding Turkey's human rights record. The arms package includes advanced jet engines and military equipment. Proponents argue that strengthening Turkey's military capabilities is crucial for NATO's defense posture. However, critics warn that such sales may exacerbate tensions in the region. Turkey's strategic position makes it a key ally for the U.S., particularly in countering threats from Russia and ISIS. The implications of this arms deal could affect U.S.-Turkey relations moving forward. As international scrutiny increases, the Biden administration will need to balance defense interests with human rights considerations. The global community will be watching how this sale impacts Turkey's military actions in the near future. In a significant escalation, Russia reported one of the largest Ukrainian drone attacks on its territory, including the annexed Crimea region. The attack resulted in extensive damage to critical infrastructure, including military installations and supply lines, and heightened tensions between the two nations. Ukrainian officials claim that the drone strikes were a direct response to ongoing Russian military operations in Ukraine, which have intensified in recent weeks. This latest incident underscores the volatility of the conflict, as both sides have engaged in a series of retaliatory strikes and military maneuvers. Analysts suggest that this could provoke a more aggressive Russian military response, potentially leading to a broader conflict that could destabilize the region further. The international community is increasingly concerned about the humanitarian implications of this escalation. As both sides prepare for a potential military confrontation, diplomatic channels must remain open to prevent further violence and protect civilian lives. Future negotiations will be critical to achieving a sustainable resolution to this ongoing crisis. Tensions in the Middle East have escalated as the United States moves forward with arms sales to Israel, a decision that has sparked significant backlash from several Arab nations. This arms package, reportedly worth billions, aims to bolster Israel's military capabilities amid ongoing conflicts and rising threats in the region, particularly from Iran and militant groups. Critics of the sales argue that such actions exacerbate instability and increase the likelihood of violent confrontations, while proponents assert that Israel has a sovereign right to defend itself against existential threats. The reaction from regional powers, including Egypt and Saudi Arabia, is expected to be strong, potentially leading to a diplomatic fallout that could further strain U.S.-Arab relations. As the situation develops, the international community remains on high alert for any signs of increased military action or retaliation. The ramifications of U.S. arms sales could significantly reshape alliances and alter the balance of power in the Middle East, making upcoming negotiations and peace efforts more challenging. The United Nations has announced the suspension of its escort operations for commercial vessels traversing the Strait of Hormuz. This decision comes in the wake of a recent attack on a Singapore-flagged ship, heightening concerns over maritime security in this strategically vital region. The Strait of Hormuz serves as a crucial artery for global oil shipments, with approximately 20% of the world's oil passing through its waters. As tensions between the U.S. and Iran escalate, the safety of shipping routes becomes increasingly precarious. Analysts caution that the cessation of UN escorts may expose vessels to greater risks, possibly leading to disruptions in oil supply and fluctuations in global prices. The international community is pressing for renewed dialogue to foster maritime safety amidst rising hostilities. Furthermore, as Iran continues to assert its influence, the ramifications for international trade routes and economic stability are profound. Stakeholders must remain vigilant, as the evolving dynamics in the strait could have far-reaching consequences for energy markets and geopolitical relations in the coming months. Hundreds of Kenyans have been arrested as they marked the anniversary of deadly protests that erupted 2 years ago, triggered by alarming allegations of police brutality and widespread government corruption. These protests drew attention to systemic issues within Kenya's law enforcement and governance, highlighting long-standing grievances among citizens. Activists have since intensified their calls for justice and accountability, urging the government to address these critical human rights violations. However, the authorities have adopted a hardline stance against dissent, leading to increased tensions across the nation. This anniversary has reignited discussions about the urgent need for comprehensive reforms to protect civil liberties and ensure free speech. The international community has voiced concern over the treatment of protesters, further complicating the political landscape. The ongoing unrest poses significant challenges for the current administration, which must now balance maintaining order while addressing the legitimate concerns of its citizens. As tensions escalate, the potential for further violence looms large, compelling the government to seek dialogue and establish a framework for peaceful resolution. In a significant political move, the U.S. Senate voted to halt military actions in the ongoing conflict with Iran. This decision reflects growing concerns among lawmakers about the implications of prolonged military engagement, particularly in light of recent escalations in the region. The vote comes amid widespread public dissent regarding U.S. involvement overseas, with many Americans questioning the efficacy and morality of military interventions. Lawmakers argue that a diplomatic approach is essential for effectively resolving tensions with Iran, which has long been a contentious issue in U.S. foreign policy. Critics of the military strategy emphasize that continued aggression risks escalating conflict and destabilizing an already volatile Middle East. This vote signals a notable shift in U.S. foreign policy towards a more cautious, measured stance, prioritizing dialogue over warfare. As the Senate continues to debate this issue, the potential for significant changes in military funding and strategy is high. The outcome could reshape the U.S. approach not only to Iran, but also to its allies and adversaries in the region, fostering a climate for renewed diplomatic efforts and peace negotiations. Future discussions may pivot towards establishing a framework for long-term stability. The conflict between Israel and Hamas has escalated dramatically, resulting in significant casualties on both sides. The violence ignited after Hamas launched an extensive barrage of rockets targeting Israeli cities, prompting Israel to respond with a series of airstrikes. These strikes have heavily impacted civilian areas, leading to widespread destruction and international condemnation. Humanitarian organizations are urgently calling for a ceasefire to alleviate the suffering of innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. This latest outbreak of violence is rooted in decades of historical tensions, including territorial disputes and political grievances, which have perpetuated cycles of retaliation. The current situation threatens to destabilize not only Israel and Gaza, but also the broader Middle East, where alliances are fragile and tensions are high. As world leaders advocate for renewed diplomatic efforts, the prospects for a lasting peace appear increasingly bleak. The ongoing violence raises concerns about a potential spillover into neighboring countries, which could exacerbate an already volatile region. With each day that passes, the humanitarian crisis deepens and the chances for reconciliation diminish. Looking ahead, immediate intervention is crucial, as failure to address the underlying issues may lead to an even more dangerous escalation in the conflict. Iran has recently taken steps that appear to test the United States' negotiation stance amid ongoing tensions. Reports indicate that Iran has resumed certain nuclear activities that were previously curtailed under the 2015 nuclear deal, raising alarms among U.S. officials. This escalation comes as Iran seeks to leverage its nuclear advancements to gain a stronger bargaining position in future negotiations. The 2015 agreement, which aimed to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for sanctions relief, has been a focal point of international diplomacy. The U.S. administration has responded with stern warnings, emphasizing the need for Iran to adhere to its international obligations and signaling a potential shift in its diplomatic strategy. The implications of Iran's actions extend beyond nuclear negotiations, affecting regional security dynamics and raising concerns among U.S. allies in the Middle East. Countries like Israel and Saudi Arabia are particularly anxious about Iran's nuclear ambitions, fearing an arms race in a volatile region. As the situation develops, the potential for renewed conflict remains a pressing concern. International powers are calling for dialogue to ensure stability in the region. The focus will be on how the U.S. and its allies respond to these provocations. The coming weeks will be critical in determining the future of U.S.-Iran relations, with the possibility of renewed diplomatic initiatives or increased tensions looming on the horizon. Thank you for watching today's news recap. Which story shocked you the most? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.